Imagine, if you will, it's the year 2000. You see, you could have put an effect like an echo. It's 2000, and you're looking for a first-person shooter that'll blow you away. You've just picked up a slick new PlayStation 2, and you're out on the hunt for games. What can choose? You could pick up something like Perfect Dark, maybe GoldenEye. I mean, Unreal Tournament is an option. But what if you wanted something more unique? Timesplitters. It was a beautiful piece of artistry for the PlayStation 2, and it deserves all the praise it gets. For its time, I get it. Come on, you could have at least pity laughed. It was impressive. See, while it had a story in arcade mode, like most other first-person shooters, Timesplitters also had challenges, which were basically just things you had to do in an allotted time. But they fun! It also had a built-in map maker, and this thing was really sweet. It was intuitive, anybody could easily make up maps, but you could also stylize them, customize them heavily, and even set up your own story missions around them. Remember, this was back in 2000, on a console no less. What other games could you do that in? And one thing you might notice is that it bears a striking similarity to GoldenEye, and that's because it was made by the same people. Yes, after many of the devs left Rare to start their own thing, they made this magnificent beast. And there's even callbacks throughout the series, like how the second game starts in a Siberian dam. It was pretty awesome. But could it get more awesome? Absolutely. Just 2 years later, we were graced with Timesplitters 2. Now, this one was where the series really hit it. Timesplitters 2 received critical acclaim, some going as far as to calling it the best first-person shooter on the PlayStation 2. Now, I don't know about that, but it certainly should be among them. Timesplitters 2 really upped the game. The story was now expanded and characterized. They also got rid of any clunkiness the first game might have had. And they put their humor into the game. I mean, from monkeys running around to the ability to play as a burnt corpse. Yes, you heard that right. You can play as a burnt corpse. He's called Crispin. Get it? Do you get it? Because he's crisp. Honestly, the game had real character. And really a lot of characters. Timesplitters 2 had over 125 playable characters. And remember, this was 2002. Most games back then were pretty limited. And a lot of the characters had special abilities and effects. Smaller characters were sometimes faster, zombies needed to be killed with a headshot, robots were weak to shock weapons, and while it sounds like that might make some things unfair, it didn't, because all of these could be customized or turned off. So could, well, everything really. And with so much variety, it allowed for so many different ways to play. In fact, customization and variety might just be the two words to use to describe Timesplitters. Among the plethora of maps, you could customize every weapon, every character, every team, power-ups, game modes, everything was customizable. That's what made it so cool. While we would start to see this as common and expected later on in gaming, at the time it was refreshing and pretty innovative. And let's not forget the map maker, which was improved upon. In Timesplitters 2, it was even more robust, with new ways to customize and create levels. You could add story missions, have small scripted areas. It was top-notch thing. And of course there were the monkeys. Now, anyone who's played Timesplitters knows that the devs were obsessed with monkeys. Apart from being a nuisance in the story mode, there were many challenges and arcades framed around them. In fact, they even had a whole game mode dedicated to them. It was called Monkey Assistant, and basically it was just a standard deathmatch. The catch? Well, the player in last place had a bunch of monkeys with rocket launchers appear periodically to help him out. Yeah, talk about a powerful handicap. Okay. Oh god, they're coming. They're here. Oh! In fact, a lot of the game modes were pretty unique. There were the common ones like Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, Capture the Bag, Last Man Standing, and there were weirder ones that you sometimes saw in other games like Vampire, Thief, Shrink, and Assault. But there were also the batshit crazy ones I've never seen in other games, like Flame Tag. It's just tag, except the one whose it is on fire. And to avoid them, you just have to listen for their screams of agony get louder as they approach you.
It burns!
Great. That's good stuff right there. And then there's the game mode Virus, which was essentially the same, except every person that was tagged also became it. So, yeah. Now, there were many people screaming on fire.
It burns!
Kill me. In total, the series saw 19 game modes to experiment with, and that didn't include the challenges or story missions. That was pretty varied, especially for its time. And the last installment raised the bar even further. It expanded everything from the map maker, story, challenges, arcades. Everything was improved, and they stopped caring, but in a good way. What I mean is that they went all out with the humor and zaniness. Challenges saw you playing as a chef fighting off your food, or you could play as a school of fish. Yes, a school of fish floating around, killing people with a floating gun. And who said video games aren't art? In fact, most of the characters had differing outfits and color schemes. This approach would later become known as skins and become a staple of pretty much every game. But back then, it was rare to see your favorite characters dressing up as... Oh god, get it off screen! The monkeys had so many variations, which was awesome. And they also got a new game mode, Monkey Curling, where you curl monkeys. The questions I had back then, still unanswered. But perhaps deep down in my heart, I didn't want them answered. Because how could the answers be? This time around we had 150 characters to choose from, which is stunningly impressive, especially for 2005. Each with their own voice lines and animations. It was so cool just to go through the character select screen to see what each one would do.
I say, it's rather warm in here.
And this was it. The pinnacle of Timesplitters, the piece de resistance. Pardon my French, Mongolian throat singing. Nothing was quite like Timesplitters. I mean, it was a time travel game, which is where a lot of its strength came from. For example, Halo was a sci-fi game, so it always centered around the sci-fi aspect of it. Call of Duty was a war game, so it had to fit into its own time period. But Timesplitters was unique because it could go anywhere and go any time. You jump from exploring the tombs of the pharaohs to a distant robo-human war. Then you'd hop from the 60s fighting evil James Bond villains to a haunted mansion in the 90s. And now we're on the moon. But this is what made it so fun, and it really allowed the devs to free themselves to think creatively. There were no constraints on where the story could go or how the characters needed to be introduced. And that was something special. Back then, I was so pumped. I was so ready for the next Timesplitters game. And the next bit of Timesplitters news was the news I wanted to hear. A new game! And boy, my bowels emptied for the next time. You know what? That's kind of gross. I'm not going to put that one in. Oh, baby. Timesplitters 4! On the next gen with a new engine. Look at these teasers. Oh, I wanted to play it so much. So much. I'm still crying. And then... not long after that, more Timesplitters news came out. No, please. How could this be? How could they do this? Look what they did to my boy. Yes, in fact, Timesplitters was announced to be on hold indefinitely almost as soon as it was announced. Great. That's good stuff right there. But why would this happen? Essentially, Free Radical was all set to start development on the game, and were working on some early concepts, when the greatest evil struck. Producers and their fools from marketing basically turned this game down. A statement from Yearly, he basically said, "I don't think there's any chance Timesplitters 4 is going to happen. You always got to the point where the marketing person in the room would say, I don't know how to sell this, because they want a character they can put on the front of the box. Every marketing person and every publisher we spoke to said, you can't have that as your selling point, and maybe the sales figures of the previous games back that up." Yep. Really, it's all the marketers' fault. And I don't just mean for this game. I mean for pretty much everything in life. On one side, sure, maybe things don't have a great selling point. But on the other side, isn't that their job? If a developer makes a good game, shouldn't you be able to put together a decent enough marketing campaign? Anybody? No, nothing? Alright, great. Gotcha. And you know, maybe the fools from marketing have a point. I mean, there's no way a game with monkeys flying around All sorts of zany characters with unique abilities fighting on stylized maps with crazy weapons battling for different objectives would be marketable, right? There's no way a game like that would sell, right? I can't market that, right? Holy shit! I'm leaving. And as much as I do like to shit on the fools from marketing, and rightfully so, I might add, I can actually see where they were coming from. Remember, this was during a time when hyper-realistic shooters were all the craze. Call of Duty was the new big thing, and everyone was trying to copy it. Maybe Timesplitters was just too ahead of its time. You see what you did? Alright, you could have pity laughed for that one at least. But what's the chance of another Timesplitters game coming out now? Almost nothing, really. No producer's gonna gamble on a series whose last installment was over 12 years ago. Okay, well, yeah, alright. But you can't, don't, please, don't use that one as an example. It was really bad. Yes, it's almost certain that Timesplitters 4 will be a game that will never be. Never. And maybe that's for the best. Who knows what kind of a game Timesplitters would be if it was made now. But still, it makes me sad. But hold on just a minute. I see you going, trying to click out of the video, but stop. It's not over yet. Timesplitters Round is a fan game mod game. It's a fan project. It's basically remaking Timesplitters, combining all 3 games into one and modernizing it for the PC. It's even got the blessing of Crytek, and good on Crytek. It's legitimately great to see them supporting fan games when other companies often won't. Really, Warner Bros? You canceled the Skyrim Lord of the Rings mod? You see, this is why we can't have mice things. That wasn't funny. The team over at Rewind is working for nothing, out of the love of their own hearts for the series. Now, that's impressive. But it also shows how impressive Timesplitters was, that it could retain such a dedicated fan base willing to do these things for the series they love. And in the end, maybe this will be the last thing Timesplitters has to offer. Or maybe this will be popular enough that a producer jumps on board the Timesplitters bandwagon again. Who knows? All I know is that I'm looking forward to it. And you should check them out too. And maybe when it's released, I'll see you on there. But even if another Timesplitters game is never released, we still have the originals. And I, for one, am just glad I was able to play them, and still can.